someone cuts you off in traffic, or your phone buffers for the third time, or your kid asks the same question twice, and something in you goes from 0 to furious in under a second. Not annoyed, furious. 10 seconds later, you're embarrassed. You've probably decided that means you have a temper problem, or you're too stressed, or something's wrong with how you handle things. It isn't. That instant, disproportionate fury is one of the fastest defense systems your body owns. And right now, it's doing exactly what it was built to do. It just can't tell the difference anymore. And to understand why something this small can flip a switch this fast, you have to go back to a brain that only ever had one job: react before it's too late to matter. For nearly all of human history, hesitation was the more dangerous option. Picture it, a rustle in the grass off to your left. 99 times out of 100, it's wind. It's a bird. It's nothing. But the one time it isn't, the one time it's something crouched and watching you, there is no time to think it through. There's no moment to weigh the evidence. Check the wind direction. Consider whether it's really worth the adrenaline. By the time you've finished that thought, you're already caught. So the body didn't evolve a system that thinks carefully. It evolved a shortcut. React first, verify later. Because a false alarm cost you nothing, a spike of adrenaline, a racing heart, a few wasted seconds looking at a bush, but a missed threat cost you everything. There was never a version of this equation where careful and slow was the safer bet. This wasn't a flaw in the design. It was the entire design, a more accurate system, one that paused to gather more information, cross-checked the evidence, ran the numbers before reacting, would have gotten your ancestors killed, waiting for confirmation that never needed to come. Evolution wasn't building something fair. It wasn't building something proportionate. It was building something fast. It didn't build a judge, weighing threats on their actual merits. It built a trigger, blunt, immediate, permanently switched on. And that trigger still sits inside you right now, wired exactly the way it always was, because 10,000 years is nothing to evolution, and nothing has come along to replace it. So how fast are we actually talking? Fast enough that it beats you to it. Neuroscientist Joseph LeDoux at New York University spent years mapping exactly how that trigger works, and what he found is that your brain doesn't have one path to danger. It has two. The first is the slow path. Information comes in through your eyes and ears, travels up to the thinking part of your brain, the cortex, and gets checked. Context gets built. Details get weighed. Is that a stick or a snake? Is that tone actually hostile or just tired? The slow path is careful. The slow path is smart. The slow path is also too slow to matter. There's a second route, a shortcut that skips the thinking brain entirely. Raw sensory information, a shape, a sound, a shift in tone, travels almost directly from your senses to the amygdala, the brain's alarm center, in roughly 12 milliseconds. That's faster than a blink, faster than you can consciously register what you're even looking at, which means your body can already be flooded. Heart rate up, jaw tight, fist closing, before the rest of your brain has caught up enough to ask, wait, why am I angry? The reaction isn't a response to a decision. It comes first. The explanation, if it comes at all, is stitched on afterward. This is why the fury never feels like a choice, because it isn't one. By the time any part of you could have chosen something different, the alarm had already gone off, and your body was already moving. For most of history, that 12 millisecond head start was the entire advantage. It was the difference between the ones who survived long enough to have descendants and the ones who didn't. But that number should bother you a little, because if a system this fast doesn't wait to find out what the threat actually is before it reacts, what happens when it's surrounded constantly by things that only look like threats? In 2004, psychologist Sally Dickerson at the University of California, Los Angeles, pulled together 208 separate lab studies, all asking the same question: what actually makes the body's stress response fire? The assumption going in was simple: physical danger triggers it. Everything else is just stress, a different, milder category. The data said otherwise. Being judged triggered it. Being criticized triggered it. Being put on the spot in front of other people triggered it. A tense email, a mistake made in view of coworkers, getting cut off mid-sentence in a meeting. Across study after study, these moments produced the same cortisol surge, the same racing heart, the same fight-or-flight cascade that an actual physical threat would produce, not a smaller version of it, not elite version tuned down for modern life. The same one. To your amygdala, a dismissive comment in a group chat, and a predator in the grass register almost identically. It isn't running two separate systems, a serious one for real danger, and a gentler one for hurt feelings. It only has one button, threat or not, and a slow loading page, a raised eyebrow, a one-word reply just hit it. This is the part that reframes everything, that instant fury over something that objectively didn't matter. The buffering video, the repeated question, the traffic, was never a small reaction to a small thing. As far as your body was concerned, there was no small thing. There was only threat or not threat, and the alarm had already made its decision before you did. 12 milliseconds to sound the alarm. Zero ability to tell the difference between something trying to kill you and something trying your patience. And here's the part nobody says out loud. Your ancestors' alarm, as fast and blunt as it was, probably only went off a handful of times a month. A real predator, a real rival, a real physical stake in the ground. Yours goes off dozens of times before lunch. A notification that reads like an attack, a spinning wheel that reads like a trap closing, a flat tone of voice in a text that reads like disrespect, whether it was meant that way or not. We didn't invent new threats. There's no predator hiding in your inbox. But we built an environment that fires the exact same 12 millisecond ancient alarm over and over at things you can't fight, can't outrun, and most of the time can't even name. So the fury shows up right on schedule. Fast, real, total. And then it just has nowhere to go, nowhere real to land, except whoever happens to be standing closest to you when it does. So the next time you snap over something small and the shame creeps in right behind it, the way it always does, stop for a second and actually look at what just happened. Nothing is wrong with your character. You don't have a short fuse because you're weak. You don't have a temper problem because you're worse at controlling yourself than everyone around you. That was never the diagnosis. You have a 12 millisecond alarm system built by hundreds of thousands of years of pressure to react first and ask questions, never. And it's doing exactly what it was built to do in a world that trips it constantly and almost never gives it a real threat to actually resolve. It isn't a flaw firing. It's a perfectly engineered system, precise and fast and honestly kind of remarkable, aimed at a world it was never designed to read and never asked whether it wanted to. Your ancestors' fury had somewhere to go. A real threat met and settled and done. Yours mostly doesn't. It fires at a red light, a slow laptop, a tone of voice you probably misread, and then it just sits there with nowhere left to land. The alarm still works perfectly. We just stopped giving it anything worth fighting.